We are now about to make an evolutionary leap into an elevated and enhanced form of consciousness, which is going to change everything. And this is why the power brokers are so desperate to suppress astrology now.
And we're at one of those points right now that really, on a larger evolutionary scheme, really goes from, I think, really the mid-60s all the way up to the 2030s.
If I wanted to be esoteric about this, I would say that we are now finally and permanently entering the age of Aquarius.
I would say that 2024, 25, 26 is its own turning point.
We are now about to make an evolutionary leap.
But they want us to go back to sleep. And part of what they do is they create disillusionment, which often can lead to discouragement. Things are illusion, the veil that prevents us from seeing what real reality is. And remember, disillusionment is not a bad thing. Illusion is Neptune. Illusions are not untrue. They're just not yet manifest. You know, a dream is a wish your heart makes. And so when we have an illusion, when we follow that illusion and apply Saturn to it, Saturn takes Neptune's dreams and can, not always, but it can make them real. We become disillusioned when the dream is not real. And it's okay to see that a dream is not real. It's not okay. It's okay to be disillusioned, but it's not okay to let that disillusionment lead to discouragement, because courage, coming from the Latin cur, from French, the heart, we can be disillusioned, but if we lose heart, then we're in trouble.
It's about the hopes and dreams of our ancestors for 10,000 years.
But we all have things to do, and if we don't do it now, in a year or two, it's going to be too late. And that's the important thing to understand. Do not go back to sleep. Blah, 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 this noise and that noise. Do not go back to sleep. You have no right being out in the cosmos until you take care of your own stuff.
And we have that responsibility. But with all the outer planets making harmonious aspects to each other in a way that has never happened before in living memory, and I don't think it's happened like this in 10,000 years, it seems that as a species, we are now at the end of our apprenticeship.
I mean, the whole politics of authoritarianism, of fascism, of competitive patriarchal dominance, colonialism.
Every time I see Jupiter opposite Pluto in a personal chart, I'm either seeing someone who wants to be a dictator, a fascist.
All of that is based upon a Roman concept of divide and conquer. War comes from a projection of unresolved shit. World peace will never come from politicians running around the world and people signing treaties. World peace will only come when the people living in the world find peace within themselves.
Astrology is the lingua franca of the emerging consciousness revolution. It is the language which everyone will speak in the future. We're moving beyond what we've done before. We're moving into a vastly expanded perception field where we're going to become far more than we've been. This is why I'm not worried about the technology. We'll keep technology and brain circuitry and evolution will run parallel with each other. It's the most exciting time of human history. The only way I would stop doing astrology is if a government said, right, we're going to ban astrology. And I would go, okay then. We tried that one before. What happened then?
And I always think of Rob Hand, who wrote, I think in Horoscope Symbols, his first or second book, I think. He wrote, astrologers used to teach that Saturn is reality and Neptune is illusion. Whereas now we know that Neptune is reality and Saturn is the illusion there was one. What we see is not what we get.
It's not just about us now.
Of course, we are at a place right now where there's a lot of people who are holding on to denials of things that are very important and making their projections, really complicated. How do you interact with people who can't do any good for you in your life?
Now that you are quite huge in the public eye with the social media.
I've put on a lot of weight, yeah.
So what do you think most people misunderstand about you as a public figure in astrology?
What do most people misunderstand about me? I live, I breathe, I fart. I'm just the same as you. I'm just a normal bloke who happens to be very good at what he does because I have practiced for nearly 50 years. That's it. Anyone who practices anything for a very long time becomes very good at it. And they can talk authoritatively, but it doesn't mean that they suddenly become a rock star or... I was part of the punk generation. We don't do heroes. I try not to do arrogance. And even saying that sounds arrogant. But no heroes. Everyone's equal. It has to come from there. Otherwise you just get leaders, and we all know what happens then.
I wanted to ask, because in some of your videos, you said things like, okay, I know I'm gonna piss a lot of you off, or I know some of you are gonna get angry. What would you tell those people?
I would remind them that everyone's entitled to their opinion. On the one hand, this is just my ideas, my opinion, my channel. I will say what I like from an informed, educated and experienced opinion, but sometimes I get it wrong.
What is one fear or limiting belief you've had to overcome as an astrologer?
Oh, being laughed at. Okay, I've got the sun in the 10th house, but I'm a Cancerian. And when I used to go out in the 1980s and early 90s, before the internet, the computers, and people would say, what do you do for a living? I'm an astrologer. You don't believe in that rubbish, do you? And everyone would just laugh at me. And then I'd tell them how much money I was making. They go, oh, can I do that?
How do you do that?
That's not quite right. But the ridicule, the ignorance, and that just made the punk in me get more and more, right, I'll show you.
So how do you overcome that? Just like, you stop, I guess you stop caring at some point, or?
I've cancer thick skin. I've got a very thick shell, and I can genuinely now, I know my own truth.
Which planet do you have the deepest personal relationship with, and why?
Oh, now that is a difficult one. On the one hand, I would say Pluto, because it's the only planet in my chart that doesn't get any squares or oppositions.
Okay, so maybe that explains why you have a book on Pluto, which is absolutely fantastic. Tell us more.
Pluto, I was rather silly when I was very young. And I went through a 3 or 4 month period where I took a lot of drugs when I was 21, 22. And the long-term effect of that was I lost quite a lot of my teeth in a short space of time. So for a long time, I had a pretty bad mouth. And then I had the opportunity to get it fixed. And I said, in 2012, I had the opportunity to get it fixed. And I said, no, I'm going to wait one more year till 2013. Because in 2013, Pluto passed opposite my sun. I might as well hurt twice as much and get it both over and done with. So I had I had titanium mouth put in.
Oh,
It was about 17, 18 different surgical procedures over 9 months. And it was
wow.
during Pluto opposite my sun. And I learned the difference between pain, which can be managed, and ache, which cannot. And it was at that time that I wrote that book.
So you were actually like going through that, living
In Pluto's grasp when I wrote that book.
And what about the other fantastic book, The Bedroom Astrologer?
That's my pension. About 2007, 2008, I thought, okay, so how am I going to look after myself when I'm old? I know, I'll write a book. Okay, so what am I going to write it on? Well, obviously astrology. And then I realized that the two most biggest subjects on the internet were sex and astrology. So, okay, let's write a book on sex and astrology. So that's some of it is really humorous and funny. Some of it is really good astrology, and part of it is really excellent psychology. You know, the aspects between Venus and Mars with Uranus,
Yeah.
Neptune, Pluto.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I really liked it, and I sometimes I read it with my husband, and we make he laughs, like, oh my God, like how is this possible that astrology knows these things?
This year, 2025, is the first year for about 25 years where I've got no transits from Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, or even Saturn.
Oh,
A transit for a year, and it's like, hey, great, I can be me, you know.
how's that feeling?
I'm having a great time. I am really beginning to look forward to 5 years from now, when Uranus passes on my midheaven and my Mercury. I will be 75, 76 years old, and then I will enter my peak. 76 to 83 will be my peak if I live that long.
Oh.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
So how do you plan to enjoy those years? Are you gonna do more conferences, more retreats, more classes?
I'm going to be world president. Not. By then, I want to be in a position where I can almost shame regulatory authorities into getting astrology into schools.
Uh-huh.
And it's such an important time in human history. It's not just about us now. It's about the hopes and dreams of our ancestors for 10,000 years, sat around their campfires, dreaming of a time where the future, with the reason for existence would be explained. And we have that responsibility. It's an amazing time to be alive. If you cannot draw a horoscope by hand, you are not an astrologer.
Master Astrologer Rick Levine. Rick, how are you? Thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, I am happy to be here with you. I've been looking forward to this for two reasons. Number one, ever since we met at the conference in London, I've been looking forward to this. And number two, I've been looking for a way to unveil my T-shirt that says my line, think cosmically, act locally, with someone who added a great line to it that says, even when Mercury is retro. And I think you know who that is, because this says a gift from Creativa?
Yeah, Astro Creativa. Yeah, thank you so much.
.com. So thank you for the gift. And so I'm happy to be here for both reasons. What if I'm making all this shit up? What if we're all making this up and it really, I know about confirmation bias, and I know about self-fulfilling prophecies, and what if this whole thing is just totally made? And I convinced myself that maybe this whole thing was a fantasy, and I took all of my astrology books, programs, which it was actually I already had an astrology program at that time. But I basically took all my books, all my astrology stuff, in fact, all of my music and poetry. If I didn't have to make a living being an astrologer, I would just read and write poetry, quite honestly. That's as close as music can get to language, and I really like that aspect. But for about 2 years, I did no astrology at all. All my astrology books were literally in cartons in a garage.
What made you come back to astrology?
I got into what some people would call an accident. I call it a purpose. Okay. Because often accidents are not accidental at all. They're basically the cosmos saying, you're fucking up, we're taking over. Is really dangerous because trines are often where we get stuck. The energy flows so easily, we can't get traction. We can't. Grand trine. You leave the marriage, you change the job, you move to another country, and 3 years later, your life is the same mess it was before you made all those changes. Whereas a square, traditionally, Saturn square Mars, horrible. But a person who learns how to do their yoga, their discipline, and harness that energy, that's the person who's going to become the doctor who heals people's lives or the whatever. So we have to be really careful about making assumptions based upon what we think we know. And I often say that astrologers largely suffer from the same thing that people who practice fundamentalist religions, modern Western medicine, and modern science suffer from. And that is the belief they know more than they do. And as your listeners might know, our ascendant is kind of our interface point from the inner to the outer. Some people say it's how others see us, but in Vedic astrology, we're reminded that it's not just how the inside gets out, it's also how the outside gets in. It's a two-way street. And I have a Gemini ascendant or Gemini rising. So my Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars are trine Pluto with the ascendant right at the middle point. Right. And on top of that, exactly, and I say exactly opposite my Aries stellium, is Neptune in Libra. That's also at the same degree as my ascendant. So I have Neptune in Libra trining my ascendant. Now, what this means is I have Neptune trining my ascendant, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Pluto all sextiling my ascendant, which means that people get a part of me that is not really me. I mean, it is, but it's kind of like the veneer. And it's a hyper-functional ascendant, meaning that it hides a lot of the other stuff in my chart. And most particularly, that would be my Cancer moon, which is a very different flavor. And and the right response to someone saying, I have a Cancer moon, the right response is, aw. What I do know about myself is that if I didn't have a Cancer moon, I'd be a real asshole.
Why?
Because I'd be a jerk. Because I have Sun and Mars conjunct in Aries, trine Pluto, with a who cares what anyone thinks, with Uranus rising in Gemini. I mean, I'd be a bit of a jerk, which I can be on occasion. But my Cancer moon really is, in fact, caring and kind. And so it makes me, it gives me something that I think works for me. And so how would I want people to know me? Interactive, present, and kind.
I think your chart is getting quite activated. We have Saturn and Neptune entering Aries. They're gonna touch on your stellium. How do you feel about it? What do you think? What do you foresee for yourself? Tell us a little bit more. Maybe people find it interesting.
Well, okay. First of all, I think that when we look forward to an aspect with fear, we actually help coalesce or manifest that energy. I've seen so many astrologers who go, "Oh my God, Pluto's coming to conjunct my natal moon. I'm so freaked out. I'm worried about who's going to die or how I'm going to this or I don't know how it's going to manifest. I know that I know that in previous Saturn transits, they always remind me of how much work I have to do or how much work I should have already done, which is a bit of a theme in my life. I would like to think that I'm doing some of that work proactively because Saturn will be in mid-Aries, in a year and a half or two, whereas Neptune will take another 5 or 6 years to get close enough there to matter. I have 6 planets in mid-cardinal. So when Saturn, hits maybe is a bad word, when Saturn moves through mid-Aries or mid-Cancer, where my moon is, Aries, where my stellium is, or mid-Libra, where my Neptune is, which opposes my Aries and squares my moon, or mid-Capricorn. These are times of dynamic change, and I am eagerly looking forward to managing and or moving through these changes with as much awareness and grace as I can. What that means, can't tell you yet, but I'll keep you posted. And again, there's a lot of other stuff, of course, going on during the period of time.
Yes.
Because, while Saturn is moving through mid-Aries, we also, have the planets at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, of fire and air, also rattling their own signals. And so I again, nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything is connected to everything else. I think that the most important thing is that knowing about astrology is useless unless you do something in your own personal life with it. And it's this part. It's the act locally, and act locally can be as simple as dealing with your own shadow shit that we all have. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that, again, this is my hyper-functional Gemini ascendant. I have this image out there of people who don't know me, but know me from my, ascendant. I have just as much shit and shadow stuff as anyone, and it's not always easy to work at. Jung, in his last book he wrote before he died, I think in 1955 or 56, he wrote a book called The Undiscovered Self, a thin little book, maybe 120 pages. And in it, he said that world peace will never come from politicians running around the world and people signing treaties. World peace will only come when the people living in the world find peace within themselves. That basically war comes from a projection of unresolved shit. And of course, we are at a place right now where there's a lot of people who are holding on to denials of things that are very important and making their projections, really complicated. Some of them were angry at the way the earth was abused by the men who learned how to forge her beauty into power. And they struggled to protect her from them, only to be confused by the magnitude of the fury in the final hour. That we are at a point right now where we will not be able to go back to. And, that like things in our personal lives, there are things that happened at some point in our lives that created events where we went that way, and we can never go back to that point to go that way. We can make other corrections, but they never can redo or undo what's been done. That where humanity and or life on Gaia, life on planet Earth, will never be able to redo or undo what we've done in this period of time. And on a closer to home, meaning closer to now, I would say that 2024, 25, 26 is its own turning point for a lot of reasons that I'm sure you and every other astrologer who you've interviewed has talked about. But obviously, there are things going on right now that, in my mind, it's almost like taking two metals like copper, which is beautiful and pliable, but not very useful because, unless it's for art or beauty, because it doesn't hold its shape, it's malleable. And let's say tin, which is brittle but bendable, but when you mix copper and tin and you melt them together, when they solidify, they make bronze. And bronze is strong and lasts and is not undone, whereas copper can be reshaped and remelted and so on. And I think that culturally, we've been at a point now for about a year or so where we've been copper and tin, and the two have been melting together, and they're beginning to solidify. And based upon what we do right now or don't do, and when I say do, it's where we create allegiances, who we support in our lives, both personally, emotionally, spiritually, and politically, how we spend our money, what politicians that represent us in whatever governments we live in, and what we say to them and how we communicate with them, whether it be by phone or by email or whatever. It's what some people are out on the streets doing what they would do. Other people are supporting them. Other people are quietly doing research or doing podcasts or whatever, but we all have things to do. And if we don't do it now, in a year or two, it's going to be too late. You have no right being out in the cosmos until you take care of your own stuff. How do you interact with people who can't do any good for you in your life?
Do you think we can really make a difference? Because some people, I see them, especially here, kind of like giving up in the sense that we try, but like...
Well, that's what they want us to do. I mean, the whole politics of authoritarianism, of fascism, of competitive patriarchal dominance, colonialism, all the words that we all know, all of that is based upon a Roman concept of divide and conquer. It's all based upon, get people to fight against each other instead of who's in charge, and get people to basically feel like it doesn't matter what they do, so why bother doing anything? Just live out your life quietly and then go back to sleep. There's a wonderful Rumi poem, about the world waking up the morning, and it's really a metaphor. You hear people coming and going. Do not go back to sleep. Blah, 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 this noise and that noise. Do not go back to sleep. And that's really... they, whoever the hell they are, not you, not me, not anyone who's here listening to this, allegedly, but they want us to go back to sleep. And part of what they do is they create disillusionment, which often can lead to discouragement. And remember, disillusionment is not a bad thing. Illusion is Neptune. Illusions are not untrue. They're just not yet manifest. A dream is a wish your heart makes. And so when we have an illusion, when we follow that illusion and apply Saturn to it, Saturn takes Neptune's dreams and can, not always, but it can make them real. We become disillusioned when the dream is not real. And it's okay to see that a dream is not real, that the world we're living in, when we gauge it against what the ideal situation is, it's not okay. It's okay to be disillusioned. But it's not okay to let that disillusionment lead to discouragement, because courage, coming from the Latin cur, from French, the heart, we can be disillusioned, but if we lose heart, then we're in trouble.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for watching this compilation with Steve Judd and Rick Levine. I hope you find this video useful, and hopefully you were able to get some lessons for this new year. Happy 2026. One of my favorite things to do is to repurpose content, to edit videos, do reels for the astrology community. I'm a digital designer as well, and I do know astrology. So if you need any help with content creation of reels, or even your website, visit my website astrocreativa.com or backstageastrology.com, and hopefully I will be able to help you and we can collaborate together. So thank you for watching and Happy New Year.